We're back, people, and today we're breaking down film on Mohamed Kamara, Miami Dolphins edge defender. Want to go over his year two expectations, kind of what I'm, thinking from him as a player. Uh, Actually, pretty excited to do this. Go through some regular season stuff, some preseason stuff, and even some college film to kind of paint the whole picture for him. Leave a like, comment on the video, all that good stuff to help with the algorithm. But yeah, so I think one of these things is he's going into year two. I think I've already seen some people kind of give up on him. I think, sometimes that happens, giving up on players too soon, especially a fifth rounder going into his second year. Typically, with prospects, I think you got to give them 3 years in the league. And then after that is when you can potentially move on. But I don't know. When I watch Muhammad, I mean, I don't think I see a guy that will ever develop into a starter. But I think, when I'm looking at a fifth round pick, I see a guy that I still have faith in becoming a solid, like, development or solid, like, rotational player off the edge. I think there's some things he can do pretty well. I think he plays with a super hot motor. And even though he's undersized, like, I don't think he has the athletic and physical profile to be like a true starting edge, but I think he has enough of athletic physical profile to be a rotational guy, which is fine as like an edge three, edge four. I think he holds up better versus the run than people think. And then also, like, some of these reps, you'll see some pretty good speed to power. I think, just needs to understand the nuance of the NFL game more. He needs to actually get some snaps at the edge position. He only played like 15 snaps last year, so didn't get really, an opportunity to rush the passer very much. So I think, opportunity will help. I do think going into year two, it's not quite the year. Like, he's not even a guaranteed a roster spot. Like, just with that edge group right now, I think he's more of a year three guy that I could see finally having like a breakout as like, making plays as a rotational guy. Year two, it will be tougher to happen just because of opportunities. I think, he would have to have multiple injuries happen for him to get that chance. So with Kamara up front, we got him. Here were some of his best reps, and they came against Indianapolis, which is, I think, the game he played the most snaps. Just getting some speed power. You can see him, kind of combine stuff. I think, does a decent job with his footwork. This is where, like, if he does rush the passer, you want to see him work just other moves. Like, if he's going to work speed to power, which is what he was doing pretty much on every passer's rep, you want to see him do a little bit more pace variation, better stuff with footwork. Here's a decent example of him at least giving this little hezzy, which can, throw the offensive lineman off balance, get engaged, and you can see, like, how he can get lower than people, pad level leverage, and has enough power to at least push back, kind of, affect that throw there from Anthony Richardson. Not a bad rep from him there, and, that's in a regular season game. I think it shows that, like, he could potentially belong. It's just a consistency thing, and, like, his problem really isn't versus the run. Like, he's actually, for a small guy, probably better versus the run as of right now than as a pass rusher. That's where he's got to find that consistency, and I think it's something I could potentially see down the line. Here's another rev of him. Kind of collapsing in the pocket, not as clean, doesn't get as much of a push, but he clearly is still able, like, this one, he doesn't do, you see, like, last one where he mixed up the footwork, gave a little hesitation. This one, he doesn't really do anything. He kind of just comes off the ball normally and then runs straight down the middle. So he's not able to create as much push, not able to catch this guy off balance as much. He does still end up, just playing with a hot motor, ends up overpowering him enough so he doesn't allow Richardson to, step into it. And he's able to actually even get a hit. So it's not like a, a bad rep, but those are a sign of, like, this is a rep to show where, like, he can still get a win, but, like, it shows where he needs to grow as a player kind of going into year two, year three. I think him and the Grayson Murphy battle will be very interesting. And honestly, even though Murphy was UDFA, it seems like Murphy's kind of having an edge early on in these mini camps. And, I really like Murphy a lot too. I actually kind of liked Murphy even more than what I was seeing out of Kamara here. Crossing face, you can see some of the quickness to be able to, like, dip low. This ends up being like a QB draw, so it's not a sack. This was in the preseason. He's able to, boom, stick that outside foot in the ground, stab, and then dip underneath. And look how he's able to, like, maintain his speed while being so low. This is something I really like about his game. And I wish we got to see more as a pass rusher if he ever was playing legitimate snaps, but he never really tried this. Dip underneath, make a play in the backfield, get a, tackle for loss. Here's another rep. Identify the puller. You're the end man in line of scrimmage. You don't have to set the edge. You identify the puller, constrict down run lane, take on the block, able to cross face and make a tackle in that hole. Like, he actually does pretty good work versus the run. Like, he definitely showed, I think, in the preseason games that he belongs as an NFL player. I think if you have, like, a good preseason, to me that shows, like, oh yeah, you're an NFL player. But, like, depending on how good you play, I think that shows, like, Are you a guy that will ever start? Are you a guy that will be like rotational? Are you just developmental? Are you a practice squad guy? I think Kamara showed enough to me where I'm like, okay, right now he's like an end of the roster guy, but like has that potential to bump up to be like a rotational player, which is pretty quality. If you get a quality rotational guy in the fifth round, that's pretty good. I think decent burst, not gonna blow you away. He's not chopped from like the first step quickness, but he'll play with some a little bit of burst there. I think he does a good job bending right there, getting around the edge. Balls out, coming out quick, but you can see the potential in those situations. He's a guy that's willing, like you can see some pop in his hands. Like even though he's small, he does a good job combining that speed to power. He gets low. He plays with pretty good hand usage. Like his placement's good. He's able to throw this guy off balance. Ends up, kind of tabletop him with chop there, but you can see him create some displacement in those situations. Another spot where he's a high motor guy. Honestly, probably is my favorite part of his game is like effort motor. You heard him even like talk about it. You see him when he's played. He plays at 100%, constantly working. Like right there, he's getting double teamed, still able to force the guy off the spot. Here's the other motor working through, getting down to the sideline, getting over, a couple of blocks in these situations, has to avoid that. Beats the guard as well, kind of just being involved. And then his college film, he showed a lot of productivity as a pass rusher. I think it's just when it comes to translating as a pass rusher at the next level, there is a threshold you have to be like a really good player. Like there's a threshold of athleticism and like power that you need, and I think he's just right below that threshold to be like a good starter. So that's why I think he's more of that rotational guy. But I think there's enough there where he fits in that like edge 3, edge 4 range, and it's just kind of translating this that he did at college, where like he's setting someone up to the inside. Like here, he's actually showing some moves, feeling comfortability. It stabs with that foot to the inside, get that guy to shoot his hands, dip and rip underneath, bend around the edge, make the sack there on the quarterback. Lots of reps like that for Kamara. Here's a good one where you kind of get that boom pull rip underneath. This is like a Cameron Wake. This is like Cameron Wake's go-to move. Fire off the ball, shoot those hands like you're gonna pull down, and then you sort of rip underneath it. And then it shows the motor hustle to chase him down. That's like a prime Kamara play in college. This is why like I still think, especially it's only been 1 year. Like people give up on, like I got a comment saying like they were comparing him to, like Cam Smith and He got name dropped with like, oh, we give players too many chances like Cam Smith, Channing Tindall, Mohamed Kamara. And it's like those are very different situations. Like Cam Smith and Channing Tindall were day 2 picks. Kamara was picked in round 5, and he's also only been here for 1 year. So I try to give these guys a little bit of a chance. I think Tindall and Cam Smith moving on makes a lot more sense. They've gotten their time, and they haven't shown anything. But Kamara, there's some nice things to work here with. Good job setting up these moves. Like this is against lower competition, but I still want to see him throw this stuff. Boom, stick that foot in the ground, use your hands, fight to the edge, dip around, mix in those moves a little bit more with your speed to power stuff, and that will be super super helpful. He just plays with a nice tenacity motor, has a bag that he just has not had a chance to really work with at the NFL level, and it's because of just limited snap opportunities. And that will be, I think, tough to get those opportunities in year 2 unless injuries happen. So I think Kamara, I'm looking at as more of a potential year 3 guy. I think he has the work ethic for. I think he has the effort for that to stick around, and I think there's enough talent to where I still think he's an NFL level player that even if the Dolphins end up moving on from him, I think he sticks around on someone's squad and ends up making it and being like a depth piece. So if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.